Good afternoon, everyone. Before we start the event, we would like to greet all of our participants who are with us today via Zoom, Facebook, and YouTube for the SAR with AIS project virtual launch. So before we start, there are a few reminders for today's webinar. Please be informed that this webinar is being recorded. To ensure the smooth course of our program, speakers and moderators will be asked to turn their videos and microphones on. The audience in this Zoom meeting is requested to keep their microphones on mute to allow the participants to focus on the presentation. For our friends in the media, please open the chat pane. You may type in your questions in the chat pane to be addressed by the speakers and the moderators during the panel Q&A session. For those naman who are streaming this event via YouTube and Facebook Live, you may send us your questions to our resource speakers by typing them in the comment boxes. The moderator will be relaying them to the speakers during the Q&A portion. So a copy of the press kit will be available throughout the session by scanning the QR code placed at the bottom right of your screen. For everyone's reference, now flashed on the screen is our program for today. Today's event, the SAR with AIS, or Synthetic Aperture Radar with Automatic Identification System Project Media Launch, is a virtual press briefing showing sample satellite images from the Novasar-1 satellite. It will also showcase the CIASAT portal through a live demo, followed by a question and answer portion for our participants. Before we proceed, may we please invite everyone for the singing of the Philippine National Anthem. Thank you very much. A pleasant day to everyone. I am Jo Briones. I am part of the DOST-Advanced Science and Technology Institute, and I will be your moderator for the day. To our stakeholders, partners, and friends from the media, welcome. SAR with AIS is a project under the DOST-Advanced Science and Technology Institute, or the DOST-ASTI, aimed to promote SAR and AIS technology as a viable tool for maritime and terrestrial monitoring. To formally open this event, let us all welcome our speaker for the opening remarks. She is currently the Undersecretary for Research and Development of the Department of Science and Technology, DOST. She is seconded from the University of the Philippines, Diliman, where she is Professor 12 at the Electrical and Electronics Engineering Institute, or EEI, specializing in speech and audio signal processing, time frequency analysis and synthesis, and artificial intelligence. As Undersecretary for R&D, she supervises the 3 DOST sectoral councils, the 7 DOST Research and Development Institutes, the National Research Council of the Philippines, and the Technology Application and Promotion Institute. Further, she oversees the management of the DOST R&D funds, bilateral and multilateral linkages, and the DOST Special Projects Division, which provides technical and administrative support to DOST in the management of DOST Grants and Aid program. She also leads the DOST Science for Change program. Prior to her appointment as Undersecretary, she served as the Executive Director of DOST Pisherd from July 2012 to 2015. She was the youngest and the first female dean of the UP College of Engineering and was the Executive Director of the UP National Engineering Center from 2004 to 2010. She received her BSEE and MSE degrees from the University of the Philippines, Diliman, and her PhD EE degree from the University of Michigan. She has been the recipient of several awards in engineering and education, including the 2010 Metrobank Outstanding Teachers of the Philippines. Please welcome Dr. Rowena Cristina L. Guevara.
Our friends in media, Ms. Joanne Sihuko, our DOST-ASTI OIC, Mr. Alvin Retamar, Mr. Roel M. de la Cruz, Mr. Harold Brian Palur, Mr. Frank Rayo, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the virtual presser on Bantay ng Yamang Lupa at Karagatan Mula sa Kalawakan. It is with great honor that I welcome you all as we share with you some new developments in our initiatives on space technology, specifically on its role in local terrestrial monitoring and maritime surveillance. Thank you everyone for attending this virtual webinar. I hope that everyone is safe and doing well. We at the Department of Science and Technology have been constantly working to keep up with the times and modern innovations disrupting the global scene. Especially now that we are in the middle of a global pandemic, our work in the field of research and development is proving to be more challenging and fast-paced. Not just in the medical field, but also in disaster management and environmental monitoring, among many other sectors. Last week, we celebrated World Space Week through a series of webinars and virtual events led by the newly formed Philippine Space Agency, or PhilSA, together with the Department of Science and Technology, Advanced Science Technology Institute, and other partner institutions. We aim to extend the celebration through this virtual event by telling you more about SAR with AIS project. Over the past years, our researchers at DOST-ASTI have been working with our international partners from the Surrey Satellite Technology Limited, or SSTL, in the United Kingdom to make this project come to life. This project has made it possible for us to be equipped with the services and technology of the NovaSAR satellite, a small synthetic aperture radar, or SAR, satellite with automatic identification system receiver, or AIS. That's why we call it SAR AIS. Why is this important to all Filipinos? Because of SAR with AIS, we are now able to receive information from all-day and all-weather capture, simultaneous ship detection, flood mapping, and structural identification, thanks to the data gathered for us by the NovaSAR SAR-1. The DOST-ASTI's Pedro Center can now beef up their data set when combined with information gathered from Philippine microsatellite Diwata-2, as well as other open source and commercial satellites available to us. To put it simply, this project opens more doors to us in terms of disaster management and environmental monitoring, as well as agricultural monitoring, to name some of the specialties of the NovaSAR-1. One of the things that we are always asked at DOST is the amount of money that is being poured into programs such as the one we have today. This is a very expensive project, but the returns are so much more than the inputs. Let me give you some example of how we evaluate R&D proposals at DOST. We have the 6 P's: publication, people trained, product, patent, policy, and even partnerships. But we have 2 I's, which is social impact and economic impact. When we computed the amount of funds that we have used for our space science and technology application program at DOST in the last 8 years, the amount totaled to more than 7 billion pesos. Now you ask, 7 billion, that's a lot of money. But the returns, first, economically, you know that when we asked a private company to compute the returns to the country in terms of provision of maps. Meaning to say, instead of us buying maps from other providers, the maps are being provided by ASTI through Pedro and through Datos. And what they computed was that each year, the amount of money saved by the Philippines because of the data coming from ASTI is roughly 7 billion per year. So when you compare it with the amount of money that we have invested, the returns is so much more. But when it comes to saving lives because of the data available from our satellite subscription and Diwata 2, and of course, this time with Novasar, there is no value for life. So my point here is saying that today you will see Novasar 1, you will see the benefits that it has for the Filipinos. But beyond the investment we made, kindly emphasize the returns to our country. Our webinar today will be led by some of DOST-ASTI's researchers and project leaders who will be telling us more about each aspect of the project. Hopefully, this information will encourage everyone to be interested and be able to appreciate local space technology and research and what it can do for each of us. Magandang agham sa inyong lahat.
Thank you very much, Undersecretary Guevara. DOST-ASTI is always grateful for the support and the oversight that your office gives us. Now, let's proceed with the introduction of the SAR with AIS project to further understand what it is all about. So just a reminder to our media friends and viewers, you can ask questions in the chat section after each speaker. We will be having a Q&A panel after all of the speakers. Our first resource speaker is the current Chief Science Research Specialist of the Solutions and Services Engineering Division of the DOST-ASTI. Being the SSED Chief, he leads notable projects of their group, such as the Philippine Earth Data Resource Observation, or the Pedro Center, among many others. He is also the project leader for the Synthetic Aperture Radar and Automatic Identification System for Innovative Terrestrial Monitoring and Maritime Surveillance, or briefly, the SAR with AIS project. Please welcome Mr. Alvin E. Retamar.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Joe, for the wonderful introduction. And I'm really glad that the people from the press were able to join us this afternoon. And hopefully you can share the good news after this media launch that we're having today. Let me just share my screen and please affirm if you can see it. Can you see it properly?
Yes, sir, we can see it.
Thank you. I'm here to introduce the SAR with AIS project. Again, I'm Alvin Retamar, Chief of the Solutions and Services Engineering Division of ASTI. I'm acting as the current project leader for the SAR with AIS project. So before I start really introducing the project, let me introduce first our institute, the Department of Science and Technology, Advanced Science and Technology Institute. We are an RDI, or Research and Development Institute, under the Department of Science and Technology. We were established in 1987, and our mandate is to undertake scientific research and development activities in support of advancing information and communication technology, computing, and microelectronics in the country. So when you hear advanced science and technology, you'd probably be thinking about space technology. And indeed, we have been heavily involved in many space activities of the country. In fact, we were involved in the development of Diwata 1 and Diwata 2, as well as Maya 1. We have sent our engineers to Japan to participate in the development of these satellites. We also established the Philippine Earth Data Resource and Observation Center, or PEDRO, a ground receiving station that enables us to communicate with these satellites. And we are also involved with the Stamina for Space program. That's the succeeding program after the PHL Microsat program, first one, which produced Diwata microsatellites. And we also have the DATOS project. More information on this when we go to the applications discussion. And of course, we are involved with the SAR with AIS project. Now, Aside from these space assets, we also have supporting infrastructure, which are all terrestrial based. We have the Preginet, the country's national research and education network, providing us with the proper network for to enable research rather. We also have CORE, or the Computing and Archiving Research Environment, for computing to give us the necessary computing facility to allow models and other processes to be run using the images that we get from the satellites, and to backstop the data that we get from the satellites. We also have the more than 2,000 sensors that we deployed nationwide. This is another DOST-ASTI initiative under the DOST Project NOAA program. We've deployed a nationwide sensor system, and we use the data to complement and even validate the information that we get from our satellite resources. Okay, so let's now proceed to the SAR with AIS project. The SAR with AIS project aims to improve terrestrial monitoring and maritime surveillance on high priority areas through simultaneous SAR imaging with AIS data. These data can also be used for disaster management, agriculture, and environmental monitoring, land cover classification, among many other applications. We started as a project sometime in 2018. I think it's June 15, 2018. And we have been funded by our mother department, the Department of Science and Technology, with the DOST-Advanced as our monitor. Around the same year, in 2018, the NOVASAR-1 satellite, which was mentioned by Yusek Kev a while ago, was launched. It was in 2019 when we officially started the start of service with NOVASAR that DOST became a mission partner of said satellite. This engagement entitles DOST-ASTI to 10% of NOVASAR's imaging share. Now, this 10% translates to roughly 2 minutes of imaging time, or approximately an average of 120,000 square kilometers of imaging per day, or roughly the size of Luzon, just to give you some context of the size that we're getting on a daily basis. But wait, there's more. Actually, because of some optimization that they were able to do in the system, we are actually able to extend our imaging time to 3 to 4 minutes. So that's an additional 60,000 to another 120,000 square kilometers of imaging per day. Now, ano nga ba tong SAR technology na tinatawag natin? And I guess the best way to explain that is by doing some kind of show and tell. As you can see in the picture, this is actually an image of Quezon City Circle. No? And the SAR image is on the right, is on the left rather. And the optical image, which is the other type of satellite imagery, is on the right. As you can see, makikita niyo yung basic difference ng dalawang satellite. When we talk about optical images, it's essentially like taking a picture. That's how optical images look like. Whereas SAR, it's essentially just black and white, parang charcoal drawing ng na artist rendition. But of course, we shouldn't be judging the image by the way it looks, because definitely there is information to be derived from SAR images. So why SAR with AIS? Let me try to explain this in terms of technology and later on in terms of application. In terms of technology, SAR with AIS, SAR in particular, allows imaging through clouds and through all sorts of weather. As you can see in the picture again, sa optical image, kapag may clouds, you cannot see what's beneath it. So it's just going to be a picture of a cloud, and you have no idea what's under the cloud. Whereas with SAR, it's not affected by cloud cover, and you can still see what's under it because SAR penetrates through cloud cover. And this is very important dahil although the Philippines is rich in natural resources, it's also rich in cloud cover. And taking optical images over the country is quite a task. Therefore, an alternative imaging system is very welcome. And that's what SAR gives us. Likewise, since optical imagery needs light, you can't take optical images essentially at night. So when you take an optical image, essentially you'll see darkness. And although this is an exaggeration, in fact, kasi baka when you take images at night, may glimmers of light ka namang makikita from the households and lampposts perhaps. But with SAR, as you can see, it's still the same. So it's not affected by whether you take the picture at night or at day. It will always deliver the same image. And likewise, what we like about the SAR with AIS project is this maritime mode, which is a wide area imaging mode that is present in the NovaSAR satellite. 1 minute in this mode translates to approximately 181,440 square kilometers of imaged area. Now, to put that in context, that's Luzon plus Visayas, the land area of Luzon and Visayas put together in one image using this mode. And the value of that is with a larger imaging area, you'd be able to get more information. You get to have more coverage of the area and get to see more of the landscape. And you get to see more of the ships if you're looking for ships. Likewise, since the title of this project is SAR with AIS, the other item that we're very interested in is AIS, this in combination with SAR. AIS, simply put, is a tracking system for ships. So it's a standard that's actually required by international law for a ship of certain size. You can think of it as GPS for ships, essentially. It provides certain information about the ships out in sea, for example, the name of the ship, where it's from, its speed, where it's heading, and what kind of ship it is. So these information are very important. And with this project, we not only get SAR, but we also get the accompanying AIS information. Now, what is the importance of having SAR and AIS together? These two technologies essentially provides two layers of complementary visibility. As I've said earlier, AIS is a standard used for tracking ships. But the problem with AIS is, what if they turn it off? Essentially, if they turn it off, then you don't have any visibility where the ship is and what it is doing. But if you combine it with SAR imaging, even if you turn it off, the SAR image can actually see where the ship is. And if it's not transmitting any AIS, then that's a sign of that's a sign that they're doing something fishy, pun intended, essentially. No, maybe they're doing some kind of illegal fishing or some scrupulous activity out in sea. That's why they turned off their AIS. And that's when we forward this information to the proper authority and they do the corresponding action. Aside from technology, of course, the more important aspect of doing this project, and this will be discussed later on by my colleagues in the project, is the applications. We can do a lot of applications with SAR and AIS, of course. This includes DRM activities, mostly in flooding, because SAR is very good with water. This will be explained to you later by Roel and Brian in their presentation. And of course, maritime domain awareness. We are, of course, a nation, an archipelagic nation, surrounded by large bodies of water. And these bodies of water need to be monitored. And we need to be aware what's happening there. And because they are fairly large, we need a system to effectively monitor what's going on in these areas. We can also do infrastructure monitoring, aquaculture. We're currently doing a project with the Philippine Statistics Authority to audit fish pens, fish ponds, and many others, and other similar structures in our bodies of water. We can also do change detection. Agriculture is another area that we can use SAR with. Forest mapping, oil spill detection, and many others in the pipeline. Of course, there's always a degree of research and development whenever we do some projects, and we will definitely come up with novel applications using SAR with AIS. So what are we getting from the engagement? As I mentioned earlier, we get approximately 120,000 square kilometers per day of SAR imagery, together with the accompanying AIS data. We also get to upgrade our ground station, the Pedro ground station. We have one in Quezon City at the DOST-ASTI office, and another one in Davao. So we will be upgrading the ground station in Davao so that we can directly receive NovaSAR data when it passes over the country. Kasi currently po, we are getting the reception services is being done for us by SSTL, the owner of the satellite. And then from SSTL, they forward the data to us. By directly receiving the data here, we can reduce the turnaround time or lag time between the transfer of data from SSTL to here. And we can better respond, especially in critical times or moments when time is of the essence, especially in times of disaster, when we need the data as soon as possible. So that's the beauty of being able to receive the data directly through our ground station. And of course, part of this package is, of course, training and capability development. And this series of trainings is not only for ASTI personnel, but we are in fact extending it to various government agencies so that they too can also be equipped properly in handling SAR and AIS data. So for the project outputs, we of course put a premium on the applications that we will be rolling out from the project. More information on this in the succeeding presentations. Our style has always been to develop the system in-house. And once we have something working using AI and many other models that we use in ASTI, we then roll it out to a partner agency so that we only have to train them. And they also already have an operational system that they can use to make their work more efficient and more effective. We also have the SIASAT portal. So this is our gateway to the NovaSAR data, essentially. So people will create an account with our portal, and then from there they can access the many data that we have gathered from NovaSAR 1, including some of our very own products that may be of use to them. Of course, there will be some form of limitation per account. Of course, for civilians, they can only gain access to certain type of data. So it really depends on the kind of information that they need. And that's the kind of account that they'll be getting. More on this when Frank presents SIASAT later on. And as I mentioned, we'll also be upgrading our ground station so that we can receive directly from the satellite. We'll also have trained personnel. And lastly, of course, this is very important for an R&D institute such as DOST-ASTI, we will be generating scientific papers from our research activities in this project. So that ends my presentation. It's essentially an overview of what the project is, and the details, as I mentioned earlier, will be discussed by my colleagues in the succeeding presentations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Retamar. We are encouraging everybody to leave their questions in the chat section after each speaker. We will be having a Q&A panel after all of the speakers. So to our viewers on Facebook, YouTube, please comment your questions in the chat section. And to the audience here on Zoom, please leave your questions also in the chat box that we have here. So yes, after learning all about the SAR with the AIS project, you know what it's about, what it's for, let's now deeply dive more into what there is with SAR with AIS technologies. In the next part, our next resource speakers will tell us about the technology. So our second speaker is a senior science research specialist from DOST-ASTI with major contributions in the development of Advanced Remote Data Acquisition Unit, or the ARQ, which paved the way in the development of more than 1,000 sensors to capture real-time water level and rain data all over the country. In 2015, he was sent to Japan together with other Filipino engineers to help build the first Philippine microsatellite, Diwata-1. Currently, he is the operations head of the Pedro Center, which handles the Diwata operations, as well as other subscribed satellites. Accompanying him is a researcher in the DOST's Advanced Science and Technology Institute for Space Applications and Mapping. A licensed geodetic engineer, he has been R&D since 2013. He is the tech lead of the DATOS project, which specializes in AI and ML, machine learning, applications of space tech, and is one of the technical personnel involved with SAR with AIS research. Please welcome Engineer Harold Brian Espaler and Engineer Roel M. de la Cruz.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Brian, and kasama ko si Roel. And then today, we will be discussing yung applications and technology behind SAR with AIS. So, next slide. Okay, just a brief recap kung ano ba yung NOVA-SAR-1 satellite. So essentially, this satellite was launched last September 16, 2018, and yung altitude niya is around 580 kilometers. Tapos yung orbit is sun-synchronous orbit with an inclination of 7.5 degrees. Yung launch vehicle that was used is a PSLV-C-42 from ISRO. So ISRO is the Indian Space Agency, which is also a mission partner ng NOVA-SAR satellite. And then yung mass niya is around 430 kilograms and lifetime is more than 7 years. Next slide. Okay, this slide just shows yung comparison ng Diwata-2 sa NOVA-SAR-1 satellite. So, mapapansin agad natin yung difference in size. Our satellite, Diwata-2, yung size niya is 50 by 50 by 50 cm. As compared to NOVA-SAR-1 satellite, yung SAR payload niya is around 3 meters na agad yun. So medyo malaki siya. And then our satellite, yung Diwata-2, 55 kilograms lang. Pero yung altitude niya is much higher, around 630 kilometers, and yung lifetime is more than 5 years. Next slide. Okay, but we all know that yung mga satellites, Diwata-2, yung NOVA-SAR-1 satellites, and other satellites, they have similar components sa loob. So some of the components here are also present sa ating satellite na Diwata-2. The first one is yung solar panel, which mainly handles yung charging ng batteries ng satellite to maintain the power. And then on the left, meron din tayo yung comms equipment for it to communicate sa ground receiving stations. And then meron din siyang propulsion system na nasa bottom, although not shown here, pero nasa bottom yun. This is used for the satellite to maintain its altitude. Kasi as we all know, as the satellite orbits around the Earth, hinihila siya ng gravity. So they have this propulsion system to keep it at a uniform altitude. Si Diwata 2, walang ganon, but sorry, can you go back please? Yeah, wala ganun si Diwata 2, pero si Novosor 1 meron. And then meron din siyang star track or telescopes. These telescopes are used for the satellite to know kung ano yung orientation niya. So essentially, it's an attitude determination mechanism. So with this mechanism, malalaman niya kung ano yung position niya sa space. But what is very different between Novosar 1 satellite and the Diwata 2 satellite is si Diwata 2 meron siyang camera. These are used to take the captures. But for the Novosar 1 satellite, it uses the S-band SAR. So different type yung pagkuha niya ng image, and then more on this, si Roel will discuss this more on his presentation. But for now, let's just note na this rectangular area of the satellite is being used for the imaging of the areas sa Earth. Next slide. So for the satellite, it has 4 modes of operation. No? And then these modes will be used depending on the purpose of the capture. So meron siyang strip map mode, may scansar mode, scansar wide mode, and maritime mode. So ang differences between these modes are pag higher yung resolution niya, mas lower yung swath. So pag habang habang bumababa yung resolution mo, pwede kang makaka-capture ng medyo malaking swath. So for us, we just check kung ano yung purpose ng capture, and then we identify what kind of mode to use. And then yung revisit time ni Novosar for a particular look angle and direction is around 14 days. Next slide. Okay, one very important aspect for the Novosar satellite operations is yung ground segment. So this is where we perform all the day-to-day activities of the satellite. And then to help us with this, we have the Pedro Center. Ayun yun, nabanggit nila Sir Ning kanina, at saka nila Yusek Kev. Itong Pedro Center, which stands for the Philippine Earth Data Resource and Observation Center, serves as our ground receiving station, not only for the Novosar satellite, but for other satellites as well, including yung Diwata 1, which is already decommissioned, and then currently meron tayong Diwata 2, as well as other subscribed commercial satellites. So there are 2 main components of a ground receiving station. The first one is yung satellite tracking antenna. Can you go back, please? Sorry. Yeah. The first one is the satellite tracking antenna. So yung image on the right, ito yung time-lapse nung paggawa or pag-install nung tracking antenna na sa Davao. So it has a 7.3 meter antenna, which is the largest tracking antenna sa Philippines currently. So ang ginagawa nitong tracking antenna, it tracks the satellite as it flies by from horizon to horizon. And during this window, we can communicate with the satellite, and then we can receive images na captured in Novosar, as well as yung AIS data. And then the second component is the operation center. So yung image on the left, bottom left, is the operation center in ASTI. This is where all the satellite operation takes place. And this is also where we conduct our mission planning to properly utilize our space assets, especially during disaster and calamities. Okay, next slide. Okay, this is just a simple flow diagram on how we do the activities in ASTI for the Novosar 1 satellite. So everything starts with the ASTI GRS Operation Center. And then this is also linked to the Siyasat portal, which is our public-facing platform. More on this later by the President of Frank. So this is where the stakeholders can make a request for captures as well as access the Novasar images and AIS data. So ang ginagawa po natin, pag mayroong ma-receive na request from using the portal, we validate the AOI, and then after we perform the validation, we use the tasking software from SSTL na naka-install din sa ASTI GRS Center, and then we encode the request, and then this will go to the SSTL Guilford SOC. So SOC stands for the Spacecraft Operation Center na nasa UK. And they also have a ground station there for the communications ng Novasar satellite. So yung SOC na yan, they handle or they host the planning and coordination of the different partners, as well as manage the operations ng satellite. And then also, they also ensure na yung health ng satellite is okay and it's working properly. So after validation of our request, they will generate the schedule for the captures of the satellite. And then once the satellite passes by their ground station, they will upload yung schedules of captures. So once ma-receive yun in Novasar satellite, and then it passes by our AOI in the Philippines, it will take the captures, and then these captures will be sent to our ground receiving station sa Davao. Not only the images, but also the AIS data. So once ma-receive yan ng ating antenna, since we have a 1 gigabit fiber link connecting Davao to ASTI, isi-send natin lahat ng mga data na to our servers in ASTI, and then would be linked to the Siyasat portal para ma-access ng mga stakeholders. Next slide. So again, yun nga, diba, narinig natin kanina na yung project is SAR plus AIS. So although kanina nagbigay na ng introduction si Sir Ning, and then just to dive a little bit deeper kung ano yung AIS. So yun nga, yung AIS are itong mechanisms na ini-install sa mga ships to allow vessels to automatically report their position and navigational information to all receivers within range, and simultaneously to receive other vessel positions. So yung primary uses nun, first yung aid in navigation, search and rescue, collision avoidance, and accident investigation. So there are two types of AIS receivers. Merong satellite AIS receiver at saka yung terrestrial AIS receiver. So yung si Novasar 1, meron siyang satellite AIS receiver. Ang advantage nito is that it can detect any vessel with AIS receiver. As compared kasi sa terrestrial AIS receivers, meron siyang limitation sa range, primarily because of the curvature of the Earth. So yung antenna, pag yung ship is medyo lumayo na dun sa shore, kung saan nakakabit yung terrestrial receiver, hindi na siya mare-receive ng receiver na to kasi bounded siya nga by the curvature of the Earth. So, pero pag si satellite receiver, since hindi siya factor kasi nasa space siya. Pero yung advantage naman ng terrestrial AIS receiver is that it can get continuous real-time messages or data, as compared sa satellite receivers. Messages only are received when the satellite passes over the vessels. So next slide. So ito yung just brief animation, no, kung para ma-explain natin kung ang difference ng satellite AIS receiver at saka yung terrestrial receivers. So yung mga towers na nasa left side, these are terrestrial receivers na pwedeng maka-receive ng mga data, mga AIS data from the ships. Pero yun nga, pag yung ships medyo lumayo sa kanya, hindi niya ma-receive. Pero pag satellite receiver, pag dumaan siya dun sa area na yan, lahat ng mga data or ng AIS data ng mga ships is kaya niyang makuha lahat yon. So yun yung advantage ng paglagay ng AIS receiver sa isang satellite katulad ng Novasar 1. Next slide. So ito yung captures ng AIS data ni Novasar. This was taken last March 25, 2020. But it should be noted na hindi lahat ng points dyan corresponds to a particular, to a different ship. So, kasi yung types of AIS receivers, meron tayong tinatawag na Class A receiver, na a Class A transponder, na AIS transponder, na nagbibigay ng data every 3 to 5 seconds. Yung Class B naman, every 30 seconds. So, mapapansin natin dyan, yung mga points na dyan, merong mga points dyan na are pertaining to the same ship. So, ang kagandahan naman nun is pag makuha mo yung mga data na yan for a particular ship, matatrack mo kung saan siya papunta, even calculate yung speed ng ship na yan based on the data na binabato niya every certain interval. So, yun po yung advantage nung, ito po yung nakukuha na AIS data. And then on the inset, yun sa upper right, ito yung lahat ng mga AIS data na nakukuha. Yan, no? So even on yung mga data na nasa mga oceans, kaya niya makuha as long as yung mga transponders are active and then are sending data to the satellite. So again, thank you for listening. I will now turn you over to my colleague, Roel, for the SAR image and applications. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sir Bry. I will be discussing yung applications ng Novasar 1 satellite natin. But first, I would like to discuss I would like to give you an overview kung ano ba yung characteristic ng isang SAR image. I would like to start with this slide, yung difference ng passive and active na remote sensing. Yung typical na alam natin na satellite imagery, yung mga colored na high resolution images like yung mga nasa Google Earth or yung typical na nakikita natin nga ay yun ay tinatawag na passive. Nakukuha ng mga satellites, yung dala-dala niyang payload or yung camera niya, nakukuha niya yung ano itsura nung nasa ground based from the illumination na galing sa sun. Okay? So yung mga ganung klase ng satellite, hindi sila kumukuha ng picture sa gabi kasi walang source of light, so dark lang yung makikita nila. So ayan, dun naman sa active, nakakuha siya ng araw, nakakuha din siya sa gabi, day and night imaging siya, at kasi siya yung nag-send ng sarili niyang signal at nire-receive din niya yung nag-bounce back na signal from the signal na sinend niya. So yun yung isang klase yun yung active remote sensing na tinatawag. So mostly yung nandito sa part na to, yung sa passive na remote sensing part, yun yung mga widespread na satellite images na optical na nakikita natin. So yung optical, ibig sabihin, kumuha ng true color picture. Of course, there are other data na nakukuha beyond the visible spectrum. Pero yan, for an illustration. Yung Novasar 1 natin ay isa sa mga active systems. So SAR siya, synthetic aperture radar. So nag-send siya ng sarili niyang microwave signal pababa. Actually, sideways siya. Then nire-receive niya din yung signal na yon pabalik. Okay, so yun yung ginagawa niya. So gusto ko lang i-point out na ibang-iba yung behavior ng isang typical na optical satellite imagery versus yung SAR imagery. So dun sa usually ang ginagawa ng ating mga analyst ng remote sensing people ay ina-analyze yung mga spectral characteristic ng mga optical images. Ano ba yung response ng object na to sa blue, sa green, sa red, sa near infrared, sa mid infrared, far infrared, sa thermal, etc. So yun kasi yung mga nakikita natin sa optical na imagery. So yung visible light mostly yung nandiyan, and some of the infrared part of the spectrum. Pagdating naman sa SAR, iba na yung tinitingnan kasi ina-analyze na yung material since it sends its signal sideways tulad nung nandun sa illustration. Kapag meron kang smooth na surface, syempre nare-reflect ng smooth surface yung signal na yon palayo dun sa satellite, so hindi na niya nakukuha. That's why there are dark na yung nakukuha. Ang tawag pala dun sa signal na yun is backscatter. Kapag graph naman, mas scattered yung signal at may natatanggap pa rin siya. Kapag hard targets naman siya, nagkakaroon ng double bounce and etc. Kakaroon din ng mga different scattering. So yun yung ina-analyze naman ng mga remote sensing people natin na nag-focus sa SAR. Okay? So magkaiba yung geometry mismo ng acquisition. Yung isa kuha ng picture, usually na deer looking, other satellites can point off na deer, pero most of them, kung magmamapping tayo, is yung na deer looking yung nakatingin sa diretso sa baba yung ginagamit natin. Pero sa radar nga, sideways yung pagtingin niya. So dito sa part na to, ito yung electromagnetic spectrum natin. Yung kinukuhanan ng mga optical images natin ay along this one, yung visible light spectrum, kasi diyan open yung atmosphere natin, nakakapasok sa atmosphere natin yan. And yung mga radar natin ay nandito sa orange part na to. Okay? So yan mas mahaba na yung wavelength na ginagamit, nasa microwave na siya ng spectrum. And to differentiate, yung SAR, Nova SAR 1, yung SAR with AIS na si Nova SAR 1 satellite, yung payload na dala niya is S-band na radar. So marami ding iba't ibang band yung ginagamit ng mga SAR payloads. So yung pinaka maliit diyan is yung X-band. So nandito siya. And then yung C-band, marami itong C-band actually. And then yung Nova SAR is S-band, so nandito siya. And then meron ding L-band, meron ding P-band. Okay? So may iba't iba ring na characteristic yung mga sensors natin based dun sa wavelength na ginagamit nila. So kapag dun sa X-band, for example, pag tumama yung signal natin sa vegetation, medyo hanggang 3 taps yung inaabot. For sa dry soil, hanggang dito sa surface, and pagdating sa dry snow and ice, nandito lang siya. Habang lumalaki yung wavelength na ginagamit, mas lumalalim din yung natatagos niya sa vegetation, sa land, and dun sa dry snow and ice. Ngayon, yung pinakamalaki natin so far is yung L-band from JAXA. So natatagos na niya yung mga trees, okay? Pwede mo na makita yung mga branches dyan or the ground itself na natatakpan ng vegetation. Tumatagos din siya kaunti, depende sa characteristic ng soil, and ganun din sa dry ice and snow. Yung Nova SAR natin is nandito sa pagitan ng C-band at ng L-band. Okay? So kung gaano siya ano yung behavior niya ngayon sa vegetation, dry soil, and other materials, yan yung subject sa research na ginagawa ng ating mga researchers sa ASTI right now. Okay? So I hope na-realize na natin yung characteristic nung SAR, yung difference niya with our typical na optical satellite imagery. So okay, ibang-iba yung geometry niya. Ngayon, pinakita ni Sir Ning kanina itong image na to, yung difference ng optical na image, itong nandito sa kanan, ito yung common sa atin na type of satellite image versus yung SAR. So mapapansin nyo dun sa mga heavily urbanized na areas, mas bright yung nakikita natin na image dun sa SAR image kasi nga mas matitigas yung object, so mas malakas yung scatter na bumabalik from na natatanggap ng mga sensors natin. So ganyan yung difference niya. So iba yung way ng pag-analyze mo ng SAR image, iba rin yung way ng pag-analyze mo ng optical image. Okay? Ngayon, meron din namang advantages na pwedeng mapakinabangan yung SAR image natin, tulad nito. Sa typical na optical satellite image, of course, we are hampered by clouds. May clouds yung image, tapos minsan kapag kakulay na yung mga fish pens dito, kakulay na nung surroundings, hindi na siya masyadong kita sa high resolution na imagery tulad ng Dove. It's a 3-meter resolution. Pero since microwave yung ginagamit na signal na pinapadala nung SAR natin, and side-looking siya. So tumatagos siya sa cloud and nakikita natin, naha-highlight or nagliliwanag yung mga boundaries ng mga fish pens na nandito sa Laguna Lake. For example, another example din, ito is sa Bolinao, Pangasinan. Ito yung itsura niya. This was captured from screen cap from Google Earth. And ito yung itsura niya na nakita ng Novasar 1 satellite. Okay? So nakita niyo yung difference. Kitang-kita natin yung mga ibang klase ng mga aquaculture fixtures dito sa image na to na hindi natin masyadong nakikita dito sa kabila. So okay, I hope I prove my point already. So nakikita din natin dito na okay, may mga fish traps dito. So mas malinaw din siya dito. So based from that characteristic, so gumawa ng applications yung mga researchers natin para mapakinabangan, makapag-extract ng information. So yung mga ipapakita ko ngayon na applications will be mostly sa aquaculture inventory kasi dun yung current na nire-research ng ASTI. Okay, actually, this is in support with the Census of Agriculture and Fisheries na ginagawa ng Philippine Statistics sa 2022. Okay, so we are currently training AI models para mag-extract ng mga agricultural and fishery areas sa buong Pilipinas para magamit sa census pagdating na in 2 years from now. Okay? So for example, naglagay lang kami dito ng typical na optical imagery para makita natin yung difference, and we can now automatically delineate yung mga fish ponds from this type of satellite image. Okay? So ito yung delineation natin ng fish pond. So hindi na ito manual, this is already automated. Okay? Ganun din yung mga ating mga fish pens. Ito yung mga yon, yung mga may bakod. Kung mapapansin niyo dito sa imagery, nandito sila. So ito yung mga fish pens natin. Ginawa din natin siya sa mga fish cages. Okay? And ginawa din natin sila sa mga fish traps. Okay? So pag pinagsama-sama mo lahat yung detection na yon, magagawa natin yung aquaculture mapping sa isang lugar. For example, this is aquaculture structures in Bolinao, Pangasinan. So nandiyan na yung mga iba't ibang klase ng structures na nandito sa area na to. So we're trying to do that. Sana magawa natin eventually sa buong Pilipinas to get together with the Philippine Statistics Authority para sa census later on. Okay. We can also use yung Novasar 1 in detecting ships, okay, and to monitor kung ano yung mga ships na dumadaan. As discussed by Sir Ning kanina and Sir Bry, yung ship detection natin together with the AIS payload, makikita natin kung yung mga ship ba na yon ay nagpapadala nga ng AIS signal. In-explain din ni Sir Ning kanina na based from that, kapag may na-detect tayo na ship and wala tayong nakuha na corresponding na AIS signal, then it may be a flag na nagsasabi na mayroong unscrupulous activities na nangyayari dun sa lugar na yan, lalo na pag mga magkatabing barko tapos wala silang AIS parehas. So this is an example nung detection natin ng ship. So binabox na ng AI model natin yung mga nakikita na ship dun sa isang lugar. Another one is yung illustration na kaya nating kumuha nito na kahit may cloud cover dun sa area. Itong example na to, this was taken in December 2019 during the onslaught of Typhoon Tisoy. Okay? So, yung mga barko kasi kapag nasa high seas, kapag may mga typhoon ay nagtatago sila dun sa mga cove and such. So, kung mapapansin natin dito, maraming mga ships diyan na kahit natatakpan ng ulap, and luckily dumaan din yung Novasar satellite, so nakuhanan natin yung lugar. So nandito yung nakikita natin kahit na ganito ang kapal yung cloud, yung mga ship na naka-anchor dun sa lugar during that typhoon event. And since kontrolado natin yung capture ng Novasar 1, kung makakuha tayo ng multiple images sa isang lugar, doon sa mga lugar na gusto nating i-monitor or continuous monitoring ng mga lugar, makakapag-detect tayo ng changes. So, itong mga snippets na to, example ng mga change detection na ginagawa ng team ngayon dito sa ASTI. So, pinagpatong-patong lang ito ng mga images ng before and after. So kapag may nakita kayo na green diyan o kaya reddish, ibig sabihin nagkaroon ng pagbabago. Yung mga yellow, wala masyadong pagbabago. So mapapansin natin dito, may mga activities na nangyari sa mga iba't ibang lugar. So yun yung nagagawa ng monitoring natin. Okay, we also did research kung paano mag-detect ng mangroves using the Novasar-1 data. Sorry, wala akong slide ng flood dito, pero we also use SAR imaging sa pag-detect ng mga floods. So, yung mga different modes na diniscuss ni Sir Bray kanina, actually strip map lang pala yung nandito. So, yung different polarizations, tinignan namin kung gaano sila ka-sensitive sa pag-detect ng mangroves. Okay? So, pag ma-perfect natin itong method na to, so magagawa din natin yung inventory na to ng mangroves using our own satellite, which is the Novasar-1 satellites. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Engineer Peler and Engineer De La Cruz. For the next part, we will be given a demonstration of the SIASAT portal. It stands for the Surveillance, Identification, and Assessment Using Satellites. This portal provides DOST-ASTI's partner agencies access to Earth observation data from Novasar-1 satellite and aims to provide a secure distribution portal for images and automatic identification system data capture. Orienting us about the SIASAT portal is a senior science research specialist at DOST-ASTI, currently working with the SAR with AIS project. He leads the software development team in building the SIASAT portal and provides technical support to the project's daily operations and research objectives. He obtained his bachelor's and master's degrees in computer science from the University of the Philippines, Diliman, specializing in systems modeling and simulation. As part of his advocacy in applying mathematical methods and responsible software engineering to solve our country's biggest problems, he joined hackathons as well and trained as a trainer and a judge for participants. Please welcome Mr. Frank Rayo.
I'm leading the software development team in developing the SIASAT portal. It stands for Surveillance, Identification, and Assessment Using Satellites. This portal provides our partner agencies access to Earth observation data from the Novasar-1 satellite. These Earth observation data includes radar images, AIS data, and processed and derived information. The word siyasat is actually a Tagalog word, which means to look closely and to analyze closely. Ayan. So next slide, please. Ayan. Using the siyasat portal, we can monitor the actual position of the satellite. We can also monitor the possible areas that can be captured at that moment. We can also request for image capture opportunities for our area of interest. So given these data, we can maximize the imaging capacity of the satellite every time it passes over the country. Please take note that we can also have image capture requests outside the Philippine territory as well. And the SIASAT portal provides a secure distribution portal of images and AIS data captured by Novasar-1 satellite. Next slide, please. The SIASAT portal is free to use for government agencies and academic institutions. Mangyari lamang po na sumulat ng liham sa amin at aayusin po natin ang inyong request sa tamang proseso. So aside from these beneficiaries or users and partner agencies of the SIASAT portal and the SAR with AIS project, the GRS staff actually manages the task requests or the image capture requests, prioritize them, and deconflicts them. And then we will send the actual image capture commands to the Novasar-1 satellite. The data security managers assign security access levels to users and the images and the AIS data to make sure that no one gets resources that they are not allowed to. And the application managers configure the SIASAT portal as well. So next slide, please. So to conclude my presentation, here is a sample demo video on how to use the SIASAT portal.
The CUSAT portal provides Earth observation data captured by NOVASAR-1 satellite that is available for download and analysis. Using the portal, the user can submit a new task request for fresh image capture on an area of interest. On the home page, the user will see sample products of NOVASAR satellite. To access the dashboard, click Login and enter your email and password. To submit an image capture request, click Map View on the navigation bar, then click Tasking and Image Requests icon on the left side of the screen. Select an image capture mode with appropriate resolution and swath for your area of interest. Hover the mouse pointer on the question mark icon to get more details. Input the location of interest, and the system will compute available opportunities for image capture. Location of interest can be specified using text, point, geographical coordinates, or uploading a KML file. Click Project to select the appropriate image capture opportunity over the specified location. You will see possible areas to be captured from left and right side of the satellite. These are represented by red and green areas. Indicate the length of image capture and click Select AOI button. Drag the blue rectangle towards the location you want to capture inside the red or green area. This provides flexibility to the user to consider the neighborhood of the location of interest. Select the priority and indicate purpose of tasking with special instructions. This will help in evaluating the urgency of your task request.
Review all the details of your task request and click Submit button. If the submission is successful, you will receive a confirmation email.
Task requests must be submitted 3 days before the date and time of capture. This is still subject to evaluation and deconfliction of the GRS staff. Using the portal, the user can monitor the status of his task requests and download the radar image, if completed. On the navigation bar, click Dashboard. The list of task requests will be displayed. Click the View icon beside the task request you want to monitor. Here you can see the status and remarks set by the GRS staff. When it is approved, the freshly captured radar image will be available around 3 days after the date and time of capture. When it is marked otherwise, remarks shall be given by the GRS staff. Updates to task requests will also be sent via email. Using the portal, the user can search for available radar images and AIS data. These can be filtered by location and date. To search for available data, click Map View on the navigation bar, then click the data visualization icon on the left side of the screen. Specify the location by drawing a polygon or rectangle. Search location can also be specified using text. Select Start and End Date of Capture. To search for available radar images, click Radar Image button, then select appropriate image capture modes, path direction, and antenna direction. After setting the location and date filters, click Go. Results will be displayed on the map afterwards. To download the image, click the plus button beside the desired image, then click the Download Radar Image button on the Layers panel. Metadata can be downloaded as well. Several images can be viewed by clicking the plus buttons. They can also be arranged in layers. To search for available AIS data, select the target location by drawing a polygon or searching by text. Click AIS data button, then select start and end dates. After setting the filters, click Go. Available AIS data will be displayed in the map. To view more details of an AIS signal, click the triangle icon. Our GRS staff uses the admin dashboard to access satellite payload utilization and image capture statistics. This also manages all users, security access levels, image capture requests, radar images, and AIS data. Through the CSAT portal, we aim to maximize the usage of NOVA-SAR-1 satellite over the country and provide secure distribution of Earth observation data.
So ayan po, that concludes my presentation. Maraming salamat po. Questions will be addressed during our open forum. Ms. Jo?
So for the last portion of our webinar, we will now proceed with the open forum. We'd like to request the speakers, Mr. Well, Mr. Brian, Mr. Frank, Mr. Ning, and to join them on the panel is one of the project development officers from DOST-ASTI, currently involved in project management activities and framework and policy research and assessment for space projects, which includes this SAR with AIS project. She has also co-authored publications on Earth observation and local policy. Please welcome Ms. Lian Maxine Tabangay. She will be joining our panel. And I would like to request Ms. Lian to also turn on her camera and her video. Yusik Guevara, if you're still there, you may also turn on your video and your microphones because we might have questions addressed to your office as well. So before we proceed with our Q&A session, may we remind the participants in our Zoom chat, please type in your questions in the chat pane to be addressed by the speakers and the moderators during the panel Q&A session. Also, to those who are watching us via YouTube and Facebook Live, you may send us your questions by typing them in the comment box. So, hello, we're all here. Okay, so let's start. We are waiting for questions from the media, but actually we have members. We actually have people who messaged us privately, baka ayaw lang nilang nakita sila on YouTube or on Facebook po, ano. This is addressed to Mr. Roel and Mr. Brian. Is the DOST the government's repository of satellite images?
Sige, ako,
Sige, Sir Bry.
sige, ako na lang muna mag-answer. Well, actually, ngayon, for now, kasi yun nga, ang bagitin na Sir Ning sa presentation kanina, DOST-ASTI is before the Philippine Space Agency was established. DOST-ASTI was like the interim how do you say this? Interim space agency. So we cater to the different space projects in the Philippines. And then at the same time, ito yung and one of which is yun nga, yung storage, no, yung mga images ng mga satellite images na nakuha natin from Diwata 1, Diwata 2, as well as yung commercial satellites natin, including NOVA-SAR-1. Pero moving forward, I think there are plans na since nandiyan na yung, although nothing is really formal yet, pero I think there are plans to transition, yun nga, yung itong mga space asset na to, to be transferred to the Philippine Space Agency. Well, pero ano lang yan, it's a may possibility na ganun yung mangyayari na ano. Pero for now, since yun nga, kaka-establish pa lang ng Philippine Space Agency, so and then they're yun nga, nag-start pa lang sila. So currently, ang mga images na to is nakastore sa DOST-ASTI. So, yun. Maybe Roel can add or if you want to add.
Yung repository ng satellite imagery is still NAMRIA. So we are sending them the images na nandito as received by the ground station. So, ayun. Yun lang po yung madadagdag ko.
Is there going to be any conflict with the mandates of the Philippine Space Agency with the continuing operations of the SAR with AIS project?
Joe, can you repeat the question, please? Sorry, I think I missed the first part.
Yes. Hindi ba siya conflict sa mandato ng Philippine Space Agency itong mga ongoing operations ng SAR with AIS?
I see. Well, the Space Agency is a new agency, essentially. It just came to being, I think, last year. No, actually, early this year, no? So they are a fairly new agency, and of course, ASTI has been conducting these activities for quite some time now. And as mentioned by Brian, in time there will be proper transition of activities. So in essence, there will be no conflict in mandates. And I see ASTI and other agencies and other academic institutions as complementing actually the PhilSA in space activities. So hindi naman yata ang plan is for everything to be centered around PhilSA. There will be some complementing activities, some complementing projects, even complementing facilities siguro that are already existing in other agencies or institutions that will collaborate with PhilSA to achieve its function as the space agency for the Philippines.
Thank you very much, Sir Ning. We have a question. Is it possible for NOVASAR-1 to get the images of a particular province at a specific time? And there's a follow-up. Will the image be given for free? I think any of the proponents of the project can answer.
I'll answer.
Sige, Sir Ning, please.
Then maybe back me up, Frank, after I speak. Yes. Well, the NOVASAR actually passes over the Philippines at a particular time. So it's around 10 to 11 a.m. And another pass at night, also at the same time, 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. So it's more or less a routine. Yun yung routine pass niya over the Philippines. And of course, we have to look at the actual orbit kung dadaan talaga siya doon sa area of interest natin. Kung say there's a particular province, say for example, Iloilo, although NOVASAR passes every day during from 10 to 11 a.m. and 10 to 11 p.m., we'll have to check kung saan sa Pilipinas talaga siya dadaan, kung ano yung visibility niya, ano yung areas na makukunan niya. Yung next question, will we be giving it for free? Yes, we will be giving it for free. This has already been paid for through the project. And we can give access, of course, to government agencies. If this is a request made by the LGU, then we can provide it to them as part of a government-to-government transaction. Frank, maybe you can add a few more things.
So, using the CIASAT portal on the data visualization module, you can search for a particular place. For example, a province like Bulacan. You can click the by text button here, and then you search for the capture start time and the capture end time. You can also filter your request by image capture modes, path direction, and antenna direction. If you click go, the results will be shown here on this panel can also view the results if you click the plus button. So yes po, we can search for by province or by city just by using this by text feature.
Okay, thank you very much, Frank. Actually, there's a follow-up to that question as well. You've said, Sir Ning has said that we could give these images for free as these have already been paid for by taxpayer money. So just in case, how can the media access these images? Like, for example, they need to corroborate a story or use these images for a TV broadcast. Ano po yung mga protocols na kailangan nilang sundan?
First, they need to write a formal letter of request to DOST-ASTI. So they can email us at info@asti.dost.gov.ph. And then, yun, pwede silang mag-request ng kung ano mang image na gusto nila. But of course, a provision of resources are due to some security access as well.
Okay, thank you. So to Sir Well and Sir Brian, does this have any application for the country's pressing concerns, such as COVID-19 and the economy? Sounds quite difficult to answer.
Siguro I'll give my opinion regarding this question, COVID-19 and the economy. Regarding sa COVID-19, if you, in the past webinars that we conducted, we showed yung application ng monitoring capability natin sa maritime aspect. For example, gaano kadami yung ships na naka-dock, gaano kasami yung ships na bumibiyahe na nakikita ng mga satellites natin every pass. We can do the same using NovaSAR. So pwede nating i-monitor yung mga ports natin para makita kung every time na may pass si NovaSAR, for example, kumuha sa mga ports, makita natin through time kung nag-increase ba or nagde-decrease. So it's an indicator kung i-increase or nag-decrease ba yung economic activities sa isang lugar. Well, we can always relate it sa effects ng quarantine measures natin during the COVID-19. So that's what I'm thinking. May possibility din naman na pwede nating ibenta yung satellite imagery, for example, because it's our own, it's our sovereign property. So our government or the agency or can make something out of it para magkaroon ng value. Yung mga outputs din natin, yung mga process images as yung mga outputs, extracted information from those images can also be sold for commercial uses. For example, tulad ng mga pinakita na applications kanina. So there are opportunities na ganyan.
Sir Brian.
Yeah. Well, yun nga, agree with Roel dun sa sinabi niya. And then, to add lang din dun, pertaining to sa maritime activity, yun nga, yung marine traffic. Kung essentially, pwede kang mag-create ng analysis on the effects nga nung COVID. Kunyari, yung mga ships ba, kumonti na lang yung nagbibiyahe or dumami ba, ano bang mga kasing ships ang natenga dahil dito. So, in a way, you could create analysis parang indirectly, which is related din kung ano ba yung nangyari dahil sa pandemic ito. So, yeah.
Okay, you've mentioned something about the data being sold. Tama po ba, Sir Well?
Yeah. It can be done.
So this is actually related to this next question. Do you have plans for commercialization?
Regarding
private agencies, how can they access these images? Would it be the same mechanism as what Frank mentioned a while ago, just to send a letter, or are there roadmaps in place for the commercialization of these images?
Regarding dun sa access ng images ng mga agencies, government agencies and academic institutions, free naman siya. Same protocol ng diniscuss ni Frank kanina. Regarding naman dun sa commercial aspect nito, I think I would like to direct the question to Sir Ning. I don't know how to answer that yet.
Well, certainly, thank you, Ruel, for directing that question to me. Yes, of course, there are always plans to generate more value from the activities that we're doing. And when we say we're commercializing this is more applicable to value-added products. We're not really selling the data itself kasi that's covered by some kind of license. But if we develop products out of this data that we get, and it can be used by some company, some organization, and then they can generate value from the products that we develop, then certainly I think it's only fair that we get some kind of remuneration from the efforts that we conducted. So likewise, hindi lang naman kasi data yung binigay natin eh. We added effort and resources into developing said value-added product. So it's only fair that we also get some kind of payback from the effort that we put into the development of the product that we're commercializing. So yes, pwede naman yung ganung klase ng arrangement.
Sir, there is a question from the media, from ABS-CBN. How will this technology help the military in their monitoring of the West Philippine Sea? Is there an agreement or an MOA already between AFP and DOST-ASTI or any of the agencies that are involved in this?
Yes, well, to be honest, we are in fact working with the security sector in relation to this project. As you know, ang malaking bentahe ng project nito is combining SAR imaging technology with AIS. And with the maritime mode, it's really applicable to maritime domain awareness. And as I mentioned earlier, the Philippines is essentially surrounded by bodies of water. And it's very important that we are aware of what's happening in these areas. So aside from civilian applications, of course, we've been working with, say, the BIFAR and the National Coast Watch System, which is an umbrella organization of agencies involved with maritime activities. We also have communication with the security sector. Pero siguro, to maintain our being a civilian agency, of course, ASTI is a civilian agency, we are extending yung training namin dun sa security sector so that they can manage and process yung sarili nilang data from NOVASAR, and they can do so with this training. Magkakaroon sila ng capability, essentially, to do it by themselves. That's why napaka-importante din yung training component ng project na to. So ang mangyayari niyan, eventually, when we are receiving data directly from the satellite, security-related data will be funneled directly to the security sector, and they will be the ones to process yung information that we got from the satellite.
So gaano po kabilis to, Sir Ning, nila makukuha yung image if they request, say the AFP or the Department of Agriculture, when they request for a message, for an image, how fast do they get the data?
As of now, I think as seen in Frank's presentation, I think it's 3 days. No, but I think the parameter for that is yung data still lands in UK. So doon ang ground receiving station kasi as of now ng NOVASAR, and the data is being downloaded there. And from the UK, it's then sent to us. Pero kapag meron na tayong sariling ground station, and we can directly, we already have our own ground station, we just have to upgrade it so that we can receive directly from the satellite. So whenever it passes over the Philippines, we can already download the data. So it's just a matter of hours. Siguro, we download the data, we process it, kasi raw pa yun, and then we extract the information that is required. Then we can forward it directly dun sa agency in need of the information. In the case na yung partner agency is already capable of processing the data, then they can directly get access to the raw data and then process it themselves para ma-generate na yung information that they need. So that will take a couple of hours at most, as compared to the current system na 3 days natin inaantay yung data before it comes here.
Okay, sir, you've mentioned upgrades po, no, that are necessary for us to be able to download these images ourselves. So how far are we along with this project? I think maybe you or even Yusek Yev can also answer this. How far are we along? What are the plans once this project is accomplished?
Well, as of now, we are actually at the start of year 3 of the project. So we started getting Novasar data just this August 2019, actually, or well, for all intents and purposes, it's actually September. Kasi late August na nag-start yung start ng service ng Novasar. So we've been enjoying data, or we've been getting data from the satellite for roughly a year now. And actually, as of December, we've already covered the entire county. So in just a few months, we were already able to get images that essentially cover the Philippine territory. Since we're in year 3, we're actually focusing on applications development, and we're trying to fast track yung upgrades natin sa ground receiving station natin sa Davao, which was unfortunately sidetracked by the current pandemic. It was supposed to happen sometime in April together with the training, sana. So UK specialists were supposed to come over, but because of the pandemic and the travel restrictions, na-delay ngayon yung upgrade natin. But we are working with them to have the equipment to be sent over, and we're planning to do remote installation kasi unfortunately I think they still have travel restrictions on their side. Para lang mapabilis, we'll do the installation ourselves, and we will be guided by the people from SSTL remotely. I think we can do this. Napag-usapan na naman namin in various meetings already. And the training, yeah, as of now, it's also fairly important. Pero again, we can do this virtually, and we're planning how to conduct it in the succeeding months. Hopefully, we can do this everything within the year.
Yusek Guevara, maybe the Office of the Undersecretary of R&D has something to share about the plans moving forward.
Moving forward, we imagine that the transition of the operation and the maintenance, as well as dissemination of many of our space-related programs, which are currently with the DOST-Advanced Science Technology Institute, will eventually be transferred to the Philippine Space Agency. But as of now, and you have to remember, the DOST is the vice chair of the Philippine Space Council. And therefore, up until the end, DOST will be connected with the Philippine Space Agency. And to that end, we expect that there will be continuing collaborations for the science and technology, R&D, the human resource development. But for now, Novasar is being managed by the ASTI. And I hope that our friends from media would be able to convey the information to our fellow Filipinos, because after all, the investment in Novasar was made by the Filipino people. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yusek Guevara. We have 2 more questions related to the safety and security of these data. The first one is, actually, it's a comment from the Facebook page. Ang sabi dito, AIS is prone to spoofing. Do you have anything to say about that? I think Sir Brian
Yeah,
answer this question. And then the next one I think is related as well. Are these data safe? The satellite and the AIS data, are they safe? Or na-access din ba to ng mga taga-ibang bansa?
Okay, so yeah, let me answer first yung first question yung AIS spoofing. Oh, well, nangyayari naman siya, hindi siya talaga based nga dun sa isang slide ni Sir Ning, hindi lang spoofing, no? Ang iba ding ships, ino-off nila yung AIS data nila. So, merong ganun na kaya it's ano din sa atin, advantageous for a satellite na meron siyang AIS receiver as well as yung image capture dun sa area na yon, para we could perform the actual validation. We could check na yung talaga bang yung AIS na yon is merong corresponding ship na nandun siya. Tama yung coordinates na binabato niya. Kasi yun nga, merong iba, merong AIS data pero walang ship. Meron ding iba na nakikita na may ship pero walang AIS data. So all of this information can be validated by combining the two technologies, yung SAR image as well as yung AIS data. And then for the yung second question, well, for now, ang talagang nakaka-access lang ng Novasar data kasi dumadaan pa yan sa UK, so sila muna, and then binabato lang sa atin. So nag-retain sila ng siguro ng copy doon. Pero once meron tayong ground receiving station na dito, we could actually receive directly the images na hindi nadadaan sa ibang bansa. Pero regardless naman, kahit na dumaan yan dun sa tawag nito, sa SSTL muna na ground station for now, meron naman tayong agreement with SSTL na talagang this data, kung na-capture to ng na-request ng Philippines using their own imaging slot dun sa satellite, would be used solely and then never be accessed by any other country except for the Philippines itself. So,
yeah. Well, if I may add, of course, we are contractually protected kahit na dumaan yan. Kasi if you look at it, marami namang bansa na wala talagang satellites and they actually rely on other commercial satellites for imaging over their country. And of course, they are protected by privacy and terms of the contract. So hindi yun basta-basta sinishare. Kasi otherwise, well, it's essentially suicide kung i-divulge mo yung data ng ibang bansa. Diba? And these suppliers or commercial entities will not do that, will not risk their business for activities like that.
Thank you very much, Sir Ning and Sir Brian. We have one last question, and this is from Facebook, from Elfris Zenos. I'm not sure if I pronounced that right, or if that's an actual real name. Hello po, good day. Is there any chance na magkaroon tayo ng sariling launch system, or will we just focus on developing satellites?
Sige, ako, maybe I can answer first, and maybe Sir Ning or Roel can also chime in.
Okay, this is the last question, by the way.
So kung actually nung previous presentations ng Philippine Space Agency, sila DG Joel Marciano and then yung team nila, sila Rosel, they're explaining kung ano yung activities natin moving forward in terms of space activities. And then for now, for the next few years, we would be meron silang tinatawag na build na satellite. So the 3BS. So it's through the Philippine Space Agency, meron silang program ang agency to actually focus first on building satellites. We'll start small and then eventually go up until to even bigger and more ambitious satellites. With regards to the question for kung merong launch system, well, dati merong ganong proposal, pero I think in the near future hindi siya ang priority. Pero we will never close our doors naman eh. I mean, given na din na yung Philippines, very strategic siya na location in terms of developing launch facility. So yeah, maybe who knows, in the future, nandyan siya. Pero for now, it's more of the concentration and then building people as well as building satellites. Oh yeah, and then yun nga, ngayon din, it's more of nag-focus din tayo yung upgrading ng ating ground receiving stations. For now, meron tayong 3 sa ASTI, sa Davao, and then yung latest is yung sa tawag nito, sa Iloilo. So all of these are contributing dun sa space efforts ng country.
Okay, I think that addresses the question on the media chat box kung kailan tayo magkakaroon ng sariling operational na ground receiving station. We already have 2 operational, one along the way, and I think yun nga po yung sagot po ni Sir Brian po. So I think that's all that we have. That's all the time that we have for today. Thank you so much for all the questions from our participants. For any additional questions you want to ask about the SAR or the AIS project, you could message us through the DOST-ASTI Facebook page through our communications unit. And anyone from the team will try to answer them. So I think there have been questions also on our live chat kung pwede po bang hingin yung presentations ng mga speakers. The presentations used in this event will be available shortly in the live stream. You may download the media kit using the QR code that is shown. Saan po ba yung QR code natin? In the bottom right side of your screen. And then flash po siya sa screen natin ngayon kung anong email addresses and kung anong social media sites na pwede natin i-visit for any more questions regarding SAR with AIS. These information will also be available on the DOST-ASTI website. So click on that QR code, scan that, and that will lead you to the media kit for the SAR with AIS project. And that ends the SAR with AIS project launch. So on behalf of the SAR with AIS team, the communications group of DOST-ASTI, and the entire Department of Science and Technology community, DOST Office of the USEC R&D. Thank you very much for being with us here this afternoon. This event is just the start of our journey for NovaSAR 1. So we will catch you again with more of these projects and with the growth of the SAR with AIS project. This has been Jo Briones, your moderator for today's event. Stay safe and healthy and have a great week ahead. Thank you very much.